Presenting Harry Potter and the Legacy of the Marauders. Chapter 1. The End of the War. The Great War against Voldemort had finally ended, and the wizarding world was beginning to recover from the years of fear and terror. Harry Potter had emerged as the savior, having defeated the Dark Lord once and for all. However, the victory was not without a great cost. As Harry sat in the Gryffindor common room, he couldn't shake the memories of those who had fallen in the war against Voldemort. He closed his eyes, and as if on cue, the faces of his loved ones flashed before him. The memory of the day he lost his mentor, Albus Dumbledore, was particularly vivid. The shock and the grief had been overwhelming, and Harry had struggled to come to terms with it. As he sat there lost in thought, Ron and Hermione walked in. They both looked at Harry, and Hermione took a seat next to him. "Are you okay?" she asked. Harry looked at her, and for a moment, he didn't know how to answer. The truth was, he wasn't okay. He had lost too much, and he wasn't sure if he could ever truly recover. "I'm not sure," Harry said finally. It's hard to believe that it's over." Ron put a hand on Harry's shoulder. "I know what you mean," he said. "But we did it, mate. We won." Harry nodded, but he couldn't shake off the feeling that it had all come at too high a cost. He thought of his godfather, Sirius Black, and the day he had lost him. The pain of that loss was still raw, and Harry didn't know if it would ever fade. As Harry sat there lost in thought, Ginny walked in. She took one look at Harry's face and knew that something was wrong. She walked over to him and put a hand on his knee. "What's wrong?" she asked softly. Harry took a deep breath, and for a moment, he didn't know how to answer. He looked at Ginny, and the words came out in a rush. "I can't stop thinking about them," Harry said, his voice trembling. "All the people we lost. Dumbledore, Sirius, Fred. It just feels like it was all for nothing." Ginny took Harry's hand in hers. "It wasn't for nothing," she said firmly. "We fought for what was right, and we won. We made a difference, Harry." Harry looked at Ginny, and for the first time since the war had ended, he felt a glimmer of hope. He knew that he couldn't bring back those who had been lost, but he also knew that he could honor their memories by continuing to fight for what was right. As Harry sat there with Ginny, he felt a weight lifted off his shoulders. He realized that he didn't have to carry the burden of their losses alone. He looked around the common room and saw that many of his fellow students were also lost in thought, no doubt thinking of those they had lost in the war. It was a somber reminder that victory came with a cost. They had won, but at what price? Harry knew that he would never forget the sacrifices that had been made, and he vowed to keep their memories alive. As the night wore on, Harry found himself talking to his loved ones, sharing memories of those they had lost. It was a bittersweet experience, but it was also cathartic. Harry realized that by talking about those who had fallen, they were keeping their memories alive. As Harry lay in bed that night, his mind wandered back to the events of the past few years. He remembered the battles, the losses, the pain, and the sacrifice. But he also remembered the moments of bravery, of hope, and of love. And it was the memory of those moments that brought him a sense of peace. He thought of Ginny and how much she had meant to him throughout the war. They had grown closer as they fought together against the darkness, and their love had only grown stronger with each passing day. Harry knew that Ginny was the one for him, the one he wanted to spend the rest of his life with. As he drifted off to sleep, Harry thought about the future, about the new challenges and adventures that awaited him. He was ready for whatever lay ahead, and he knew that as long as he had Ginny by his side, he could face anything. And in that moment, Harry knew what he had to do. He got out of bed and made his way to Ginny's room. She was still awake, sitting by the window and looking out at the stars. She turned as he entered the room, and he could see the love and warmth in her eyes. Without a word, Harry walked over to her and took her hand in his. He looked deep into her eyes and whispered, "I love you, Ginny. I have loved you for a long time, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you." As Harry took Ginny's hand, she felt her heart flutter with a mix of excitement and nervousness. She had hoped for this moment for years, but now that it was happening, she was overwhelmed with emotion. Looking into Harry's eyes, Ginny saw a depth of love and understanding that she had never seen before. She could feel the sincerity in his words and knew that he meant every one of them. "I love you too, Harry," she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. "I have loved you for as long as I can remember, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you too." Harry pulled Ginny close, wrapping his arms around her and kissing her deeply. It was a moment that they had both dreamed of for so long, and now it was finally happening. As they broke apart, Ginny looked up at Harry with a mix of love and gratitude. "I can't believe this is real," she said, a smile spreading across her face. Harry smiled back, taking her hand once again. "It's as real as it gets," he said, his eyes shining with happiness. With a sense of peace and contentment, Harry and Ginny held each other close, knowing that they had each found the love and companionship that they had been searching for.